Okay, we are done with this part, and then we want to work on the sidebar and its components, right? So basically what I'm going to do is I am going to go into the sidebar now, and this is the style flex theme. So what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that, you see, if I add a class name here, if I add a class name and I say bgred 600, and then I go into my browser, you can see that this is the height of the sidebar. So I want to stretch it out to reach here, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to quickly go back in the VS Code, and then I would come here and then I'll calculate the height, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pass in the height, right, the height property, and then for the value of that property, I'm going to pass in calc. Okay, so calc is going to take in, so calc is basically going to take in, I'm trying to get the, okay, so calc is basically going to take in 100 vh, okay, 100 vh minus 50 pixels. Okay, now why are we doing taking the 50 pixels? The 50 pixels is basically the height of this, right? So if we just leave it at 100 vh, you would see that it will overflow through the page. But once you deduct 50 pixels from it now enters under this nav bar, right, or top bar basically. So now that it is here, that it has been worked out, we want to now put in some elements, right? Now I would want to just start putting elements in here straight up like that, but no, if I do that, I'm going to have to be setting some patterns and stuff, which is going to now increase the size of this, which I wouldn't want, right? So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a wrapper, or I'm going to basically add in another div inside this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and clear this off. I'm going to clear this off actually. Let me take this off really quick. I'm going to take this off really quick, and okay, take this off. Okay, sure. Then over here I'm going to create another div basically. Okay, now inside this div that I've created, I am going to have like a list. Okay, basically let me add the bg here. Let me add the bg so you see it. So we have bg red, okay, bg red, and it's going to be bg red. Let's give it 600 so that you see it well. Okay, let's add a border to it as well. Okay, I think it's here somewhere, right? So now that we have that, we want to do a few things, right? We want to do a few things real quick. Now what do we want to do? We want to have this thing, right, having a padding, right? So the padding, we are going to give it like a p. Alright, so we want to make sure that we have a padding, so we're going to give it like a padding of p 20 pixels in general. I'm going to give it like 20 pixels, and then I'm going to look inside, and then you should see that it has this 20 pixels in there, and then anything that we put inside wouldn't stretch out, you feel me? So now what are we going to do? I'm going to create me a list over here, right? So inside this list I'm going to say ul li, right, and then inside this ul and li we're going to have an icon and then the span of its name, right? So what we can do is we can go into, we already installed react icons the other time, so I can just go into the react icons page. Okay, the react icons page over here, and then we can put in the searches, right? So basically I can like create a span here, and I can say something like okay, so on Facebook they write feeds, right? So let's just use feeds, right? And then over here I can go back to my react icons and I can search for feeds. Let's see. Why do I feel like taking this one? feel like taking this one. Let's take this one. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this. Real quick, and then I will come here, paste that. Oh no, I wouldn't paste that here. I'll paste it here actually, and then over here I can copy this and then now use it inside the components, paste and use it, right? So if we go back to check through, you should see the changes being made here, of course. All right, so now that we can see the changes being made, we would want to do a few things. Okay, so first of all, I would not apply the stylings here just yet. I would want to create the other ones, right? Right? So I can just duplicate this, duplicate, and duplicate, and also okay, and so duplicate this side as well. How many do we have? Let me just input these new ones. So I'm going to set this to videos. Actually. Videos. I'm going to set this to groups. I'm going to set this to chat. Okay. Let me clean this. I'm going to set this to chat. Then what else? I'm gonna say bookmarks. Okay. What else am I gonna say? I'm gonna say questions. Okay. I'm gonna say questions. I'm gonna say jobs. Okay. And I'm gonna say courses. Okay. And events. So courses. Okay, and what? Events. Okay. Alright, so now that we have these bad boys here, okay, this is not supposed to be like this. I'm gonna create a span and pass in chat through the span. Okay, so this is it. And then over here, if we go back, because we've not changed the icons inside, you should see it appear like this, of which we should be fixing in no time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, for the videos, I'm going to go back and search for videos. Okay, videos. I like this one. I'm gonna pick this one real quick. I'll go back here, and then I would import that. Okay, I'm gonna import that and use that in here. Alright, so I want to end the video, not end it, but pause it here. Then I'll make sure that I take care of all these things just so I wouldn't waste your time. Okay, then when we are back, we now move on into the more important things. Alright, so we're back, and we've been able to fix all the new icons with the lists, right, as we expect them to. So when we go back in here, we should see them being placed right here. Alright, okay, so now that we have them being placed at their respective positions right now, we would want to edit the list, right, or we want to style the lists, right, individually. Right, so I'm gonna try something here. I mean, there are a number of ways we could do it, right? We could like pick just one list. Okay, we could pick just one list and then send the class name and be like, you want to give it a padding of 0, you want to give it a margin of 0. Okay, and then we want to give it a flex. Okay, and yeah, and then we can just do something like this, right? But here's the thing, we are going to have to copy this and place it here, copy and copy. So let us go back and to see the results of what we have. Okay, so as you can see, it has just affected this. Now let us try another thing to see if this will work. So I'm going to basically undo this, and I'm basically going to take this class name that I have here, and I'm going to see if whether I use it here it would work. Now let's check and see. Okay, so now you can see it is messed up. Okay, so because we don't want any of this to happen, what can we do? Okay, what can we do? A more efficient way to do all of these things is to basically now use the global styling component, right? So what I can do is I can pass in this, and I can say sidebar list. Okay, now after giving this sidebar list thing, I can go into the global styling like app.css, and then I can call this class name. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to give this a greater than symbol, and I'm going to list all elements that have this list element. Okay, so now what does this mean? I'm calling this class name, right, which is the UL. So if I go into the sidebar here, this thing, and then the greater than sign is saying go into what is inside that tag, and then pick up all the elements that have the list tag attached to them, right? So now when I pick them up, what can I do then? I am basically going to say that over here I can pass in the padding of 0. My keyboard right isn't working, so margin 0 as well, and then I can say what display flex, right? Now if I go and check through, you should see that everybody has been arranged accordingly, basically. So it works as we expected to. Okay, so now let us increase the font sizes of these bad boys really quickly. Okay, so basically we are going to say that the list items are going to have a flex center, and then the margin bottom, which is 20 pixels. Okay, so that they have like the spaces in between them. Okay, and then while that is also going on, we can come into the icons, and then we can come to the icons and also give them their respective stylings, right, which can be the margin right. Okay, but you could also give the text to also their margin left. So let's just do this so that you don't get even more confused. Let us make this simple by just doing it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, or even this list that we have here, it's already display flex, right? We can align the items center. Okay, and then what do? You know what, let us do something. I'm going to take this part out. Okay, I'm going to take this part out, and I'm going to place it on the I'm going to go back into the sidebar. I'm going to use that here. So I'm going to say M0 P0 here, right? Let's see the changes. Okay, it's much better now. Okay, now that we have this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the list that we have here, right? And then we're going to now set this to display flex, then align item center, and then we are going to want to give them some spaces under each and every single one of them, right? Over here, the spaces. Then I'm going to go back and then say margin bottom. I'm going to give it 20 pixels. Let us see what is going on. Margin bottom 20 pixels. That's cool. Okay, then I'm going to go into the icons and give them their respective margin right. But if I go into the icons, I'm going to have to edit each and every single icon respectively, but I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is just going to give the okay, if I don't want to do that, I guess I don't have any other choice actually. Okay, I think I can do that to the spans. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and then place it on the spans here. So I think the list, then span, right? I can do this for the span. Then over the span here, I can give it like a margin left. Okay, let's give it a margin left of say 10 pixels and see the results. Okay, now we have something we can work with. But let's go back here and then increase the font sizes because they seem to be a little bit too small. So I'm going to say font size, and I'm going to give it a font size of 24 pixels. Let us see the changes that we would make. 24 pixels seems to be a little bit too big. I'm going to change the feed text real quick. So let's give it 16 pixels. 16 pixels actually. Let's test that out. Okay, Okay, it seems small. Let's give it 20. Let's give it 20. Okay, let's give it 20. 20 pixels should be better. Okay, 20 pixels is good. Okay, now that we have this, let me change this text real quick. I'm gonna go into the sidebar here, and I'll change this to feed really quickly, and then we should see the changes. Nicely done. We already have these ones assigned to them nicely. So basically what we are going to do next is we're going to add one button under that should help us see more. I'm going to name that button see more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here after let me see, after the UL, after the UL I'm going to add the next button. So I'm going to put that in a div. I'm going to say div.button. Okay, and then inside this button div I'm going to create like a button. Okay, and then this button is going to have some class names, but before, let me just give it the name see more. Okay, then let's give it a class name, so we can say that it's going to have like a, okay, no border. Let's not give it a border just yet. Let us give it a rounded, and then we're going to give it a width. Okay, we're going to give it a width of 150 pixels and then a padding of 10 pixels. Okay, width of 150 pixels, width of 150 pixels, and then a padding of 20 pixels. 20 pixels actually. Okay, so now that we have this 150, 20 pixels rounded, let's give it a rounded full. Okay, let's go back. Okay, we can't see anything. I'm gonna clear. Let me first of all clear this BG that we have here. I'm gonna clear this BG that we have. Clear the BG that we have real quick. I'm gonna go back. Okay, so we can see the button here. Let us do something that will make us see what is here actually. So I'm going to take out the border as well, and then over here we can like add like a quick BG and give it a slit or something. Okay, let us see. Okay, okay, let's not give it rounded. Let us give it rounded MD something. Rounded MD. Okay, and I think the padding, isn't the padding a little too much? Let's give it 10 pixels and see. Okay, yeah, I think this one looks way much better. And I'm going to add this line here. I'm going to add a line, so an HR tag. Basically, I'm going to add an HR tag here. So I'm going to say HR, and then I'm going to even have to style this HR. But before that, okay, let's look at the results. Okay, so the line is here. So while styling this HR, I'm going to give it like a class name and say margin top of say 20 pixels, and then margin top of 20 pixels, and then right under this I'm going to have to add another list. Okay, so I'm going to create like another div, and then this div is going to have another list, and then this list is going to contain a few things. So that is going to be my friends list. Okay, so we have an image here. I'm gonna have an image, and then we're gonna have a span with that image, right? And I'm gonna name, so I'm gonna say that this part is going to be let me say Sylvester Santi. Okay, so I have this, and then what am I going to do? Okay, now that I have this image, I'm going to have to pick up an image from pixels, and then I'm going to have to use it there. but we already have an image here, so we can just use that as a test, right? So let us try to import it. Okay, so we can import this image. So I can say test image from, then we can use this path. We can use the path that we have here. Okay, then I'm going to assets, and I'm going to type the same name, profile pic dot what, jpg, and I'm going to pick up this test image, and I'm going to drop it in here. Okay, now that I've been able to drop it, I'm going to say test image, or profile image, basically profile image. Then over here I can say something like so I'm going to create like a class name, and then the class name, so looking at the result, you can see that it seems pretty big. This is a little bit absurd, it's weird for some reason, I don't know. Wow, I don't know why it looks different, but let's just edit it. I mean, we'll be using real images in the future, so let's just edit. So basically I'm going to make the size, so this is going to be 32 pixels with 32 pixels height, 32 pixels, okay, 32 pixels, and then I'm going to set it to rounded full, and then we are going to have yeah, I think that's it, size 32 pixels, random full, yeah, let us check. Okay, so the image isn't quite clear, but we can fix that later. I'm going to basically, as you can see over here, we can see that this image and then this text seem to be on a column type thing, so I'm going to use a display flex here just to arrange it how I want it to be, right? We can basically do the same thing for here as well. So what can we do in general? So because we already have this working for us, we can basically just pick up the class name that we have in the sidebar list. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, and I can drop this sidebar list. Let's see the effect it has. Okay, that's a very nice effect that it has in general. Now we can individually take care of how the styling should look like. So it should have like a margin top as well. So in order for us to do that, let us just come here and say okay, I think we can add like the margin top over here. So I'm going to create like a class name here, and then I can say margin top, and then this margin top should be what, 20 pixels, and then we should see this really cool arrangement here. Okay, so now that we've been able to have this, what can we do? You can see that this image looks a bit weird, and then we can go back to check the styling, and then you can see that we have a few things we've not added. So one thing is what's the object fit, the object cover actually, then it should be able to fit through this. Okay, now as you can see, it looks okay now. So I'm going to now duplicate this, then we add the last thing that we need to add. So basically, looking at this list here, I can come and then I can duplicate this really quick, and then when we come back, you should see that we would have to scroll the screen. It's not even enough for me to demonstrate what I'm trying to demonstrate. So I'd have to scroll through the screen before we get to the bottom of this. But we want to add a separate like a separate scroll for just the sidebar. Okay, but how do we do that? Actually, what we are going to do is we're going to add an overflow scroll, but in Tailwind it is an overflow y auto. So what do? I'm going to go back into VS Code. Let me undo. Okay, let's not undo it, let's just leave it and then apply. Let's just leave it and apply the effect, right? So over here that we have this div, we can add what, the overflow y auto. Okay, then if we come here and then we try scrolling, we should be scrolling on this instead. I'm coming. 1 second. I think we would have to add it to this one instead. Yeah. Gonna have to go back. Yeah. So you, as you can see, this is the overflow auto that is allowing us to navigate through the sidebar seamlessly. Okay, so let's reduce the slate color of the button here, then we move on. I'm going to make this 300 or 200 or something. 200, let's see. Yes, it looks more attractive. Okay, now let us edit the color of our scroll button here really quickly. Okay, so how are we going to do that? I'm going to basically use the global style file to handle this. Okay, but before we do that, we want to do a few things. Okay, we want to come here. Okay, want to come here, and then we say this. So over here we can see I can add something like custom scroll bar. So I can add like this custom scroll bar name over here, and I can copy that, and I can come to my app.css here. I can paste that, come here, and then inside here I'm not going to just put in any style. I'm basically going to be using WebKit, right? So how do I use this WebKit? What I can do is in here I can just add the WebKit. Okay, so WebKit what? Scroll bar, right? WebKit, then the scroll bar. Okay, should be here. So we can work with three things: the WebKit scroll bar itself, the WebKit scroll bar track, and then the WebKit scroll bar thumb. Yes, and then we're going to add one more style, which is the hover, right? So when we hover over it, what is the effects that would get, right? So let's work with the scroll bar first. So over here we can now make the width 10 pixels, of which I think it is already, but let's just specify it here. And then over here I can just duplicate this and then make this WebKit track here over here. Then I can set the background to be what? Let's just set it to F1. Okay, then over here I can set the thumb. Okay, I can set the thumb to be, I can set the background to be 888 real quick. Okay, now you can see it's grayer than this, but I want to edit the grayness. Okay, so I want to make it a little gray like this. I think this is okay in general. And then I would now work on the on hover of it. So here I'm going to say that a thumb, this is the thumb. Oh, see the mistakes that we'll be making. I have to use this hyphen here, and then the hyphen here as well, and then a hyphen here. Okay, so this is going to be a thumb, and then we are going to apply a hover effect. Okay, so over here we can set this to 555. Okay, so but this 555, I also want to make it a little lighter than this. Let's give it 888. I think I would rather give it that one. Alright, so now that we have this, we can go back into our project and then see the changes that we have. So as you can see, we can now scroll, and then it looks a little bit nicer than before. Okay, so now that we have this, okay, I think I'm going to edit the thumb, but basically let me explain. So this is basically the scroll bar, right? And then the scroll bar has the width of 10 pixels as we gave it. And then the scroll bar track, okay, the scroll bar track is here where the scroll bar rolls on, right? It's rolled, right? The track. And then the scroll bar thumb is basically this, right? So we can even add like a border radius or something to see. Okay, so let's go to the thumb and add a border radius of 9999 pixels. And then let's go back to check how it looks. Yes, and it looks okay and looks better. Alright, so now that we've been able to work on the scroll bar and we're able to scroll through, I think we are done for the sidebar for now. In the next video we'll move on to the newsfeed and then the right bar. Thank you very much for getting to this point. See you in the next one.